Hi, and thanks for tuning in to our live radio show. Moments of Clarity with Tiffany will begin in just a few moments. Please stay tuned. Kindly take this opportunity to share this show on your platforms because change can only come when we stand together as one, especially when it comes to ending the stigma on mental health.
You are not alone, and help is out there.
Kids have mental health issues, and we also need to learn coping skills.
Let's get started and let the show begin. See you soon.
Don't put yourself down, time for a change. Believe in yourself, time to rearrange. Be your best friend, bring hope to your day. Lose your critic, get out of your way. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity. To yourself be kind, it will please your mind. Find your joy, trust in you. Put in the time, you'll see how you grow. Many kinds of love you get to define. Find self-love, your soul will align. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. My name is Tiffany Warner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And my guest today, I've been waiting to have on for a couple of weeks now, more than so. He is a podcast host. He talks about triggers and things that, honestly, traumas that we're afraid to discuss. But not me. Always love to talk about mental health and to let everyone know that you're not alone. And I'm unmute Ed. Hi, everyone. And hi, Jason in India. And I was about to say hi to you, Larry, but you were here. Look at the chat.
Great.
It's so great to have you here. And hi, Pete. Pete's one of those first responders, too. Police. So great to see you.
Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner, licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. Moments of Clarity's mission is to educate and end the stigma on mental health through the inspirational stories of our exceptional guests. You can join in the show by calling Tiffany toll-free at 866-826-1340 or on Facebook and Twitter at MOC with Tiffany. Now, here's Tiffany Warner.
Hello, and welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. My name is Tiffany Warner. I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And today, we're going to be talking about traumas that we just don't discuss, that we're afraid to discuss, and things of that nature with someone that's firsthand seen a lot of traumas, an EMT, COVID fighter, and done so much, CEO, founder of Penton Pending Consulting Solutions, as well as so much. Before I completely formally introduce my guest, I want to say hi to Ed at Tan Talk Radio.
Hey, happy Friday to everybody.
The camera works today.
Yep.
What's up, Ed?
Same old stuff, just another day.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
we're going to be talking about triggers and trigger warnings and traumas from someone that's seen a lot of stuff and has his own podcast called Trigger Warning, talking about domestic violence and COVID and the things that it can do to the mental health,
Right.
things like that. So we're gonna have live
Interesting.
callers. What, Ed?
I said interesting.
Yes, and thank you for your service, Larry, too, as well. Thanks for being
Thank you.
here, Ed. And when you call in, 866-826-1340, 866-826-1340, please say hi to Ed when you do and tell him how wonderful he is today. Everyone
You're
deserves a
wonderful,
little
Ed.
hey, you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
Anyway, thanks so much, Ed. And
You bet.
chime in if you want.
You got it.
Anyway, so my guest today, Larry, his bio is just completely full of all these things. He's featured in U.S. News and World Report on August in 2019, titled "Diversity Emergency." He's been on very many news articles and shows talking about all sorts of things: EMS and fire, paramedic, firefighter, for private EMS and paid fire protection district, multiple state life-saving awards, licenses, certificates, and so many things. And I'm just going to let him talk about it because it's my waste my wonderful show when he could just be telling all about it. Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany, Larry Penton.
Thank you very much. I'm so honored to be here. I'm glad you're feeling a lot better, and let's just dive into it.
Yeah, so last Friday, and when we had to play a replay, it was because I had Larry scheduled. He was kind enough. I was just not feeling myself. I had like cough, sneeze. My blood pressure was up. He's like, "Say no more. I'm a medic, and we can just reschedule, and off we go to the next week." So I'm feeling
Right.
fine now, so nobody worry about me. Like whenever I say I'm under the weather, all of a sudden, I kindly get messages like, "Are you okay? I didn't know," and it's just I'm fine. Anyway, so Larry, tell us about yourself. Let's fast or rewind like 20 years, probably. I don't know, whatever, to when you first decided to save lives and become and put yourself into all these traumas and everything back in the day.
Yeah. Well,
Every time you
I'm
say
Larry
moment of
Penton.
clarity, bell.
I'm Larry Penton. Most people refer to me as LP. I am from St. Louis, Missouri. That's my hometown. That's where I was born and raised. I live in Charlotte now, and I'll get to that in a second. I was born in 71. So living in St. Louis, grew up in a single parent household. Peace and blessings be upon the eternal soul of my dad. Grew up as a teenager in the projects of St. Louis. We were living in poverty. And so during that time, I remember, and I talked about this in the article that you just referenced, I didn't see a lot of Black and brown or melanated men, women in EMS, fire. I knew there were some police officers, but we didn't see a whole lot in my neighborhood. And so I grew up as a computer nerd. I was a natural prodigy. So I thought my whole life was going to be surrounded by electronics and computers. And so for about 20 years, I worked as an IT professional. At the age of 37, I did a complete 180. And due to my ex-wife, we had gotten divorced and then we got remarried 2 years later. I joined the church that she was a member of. And in that church, one of the deacons was the chief paramedic for St. Louis City Fire and EMS. And we got to talking one weekend and he was like, "Did you ever think about doing EMS?" Because I was not happy with the job I was working at the time. And I was in school to get my bachelor's in IT. And I was like, "Yeah, He was like, "When?" I said, "When 9/11 happened." So this is in 2006 when this conversation and meeting happened. I said, "When 9/11 happened," he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I remember exactly where I was, what was going on that day. I had come into work. I was like 10 minutes late. And when I walked in, in the lobby, they had a television. And on the TV, the North Tower had just gotten hit, and there was all the smoke billowing and everything. And I just remember,
2000, right?
so this is 2001. So I'm just telling him about my thought about.
Oh yeah. We all remember exactly where we were if you were alive
We
during
all
that time.
remember where we were. And where I used to work in St. Louis, we were on the flight path to Lambert International Airport. So you would always see the planes descending with their landing gear every 3 to 5 minutes. And so when the FAA did the shutdown of all the airlines, I remember going outside a couple of days later and remember seeing no planes in the sky, which was so weird. And then what really got to me, along with the horrible act that happened on 9/11, was all of those volunteers. They had 2 lines of volunteers, and I don't know how long the line was, but these were people from various walks of life passing down buckets of rubber, clearing down ground zero. And I kept thinking, damn, excuse me.
No, you're allowed to say that.
I wish I was there to help, because I grew up, my mom was a nursing student when I was a kid, and she didn't get her nursing license because she said she couldn't deal with the blood. So she got her degree in criminal justice. So going back to that,
something similar. Can't stand it. Medical, but mental health, you got it.
You got it. And so as a kid, I grew up reading all these medical dictionaries and journals and articles and all, because we were avid readers. I still am. And so that kind of sparked it, but I always thought I was going to be a meteorologist. And then when the Atari 2600 came out, I was like, I'm hooked on technology. And I was such a natural and such a prodigy at it, I became an IT pro.
You thought you were going to be a meteorologist?
I always wanted to be a meteorologist. Even to this day, at night when when we were texting last night, I was in the bed watching tornado videos on YouTube. My wife, she watches true crime. It's so funny because my wife, she likes true crime stuff on YouTube. And so sometimes I wake up with nightmares because I'm listening to all this stuff in my sleep about killings and murders.
At home.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's crazy. So I
turn the channel, the History Channel, and everything. Oh my gosh. Then you get nightmares.
So,
I can relate so much.
So I turn this stuff off as soon as she goes to sleep, and I'll put on tornado videos or whatever, and that just helps me go to sleep. So anyway,
tornado videos are so much less scary than true crime. I always say it to my kids or whatever, I should have been a meteorologist, or at least they should, because you grow up and you get paid well to guess. Well, there's a 30% chance of rain. And if it doesn't rain, you can't predict the weather. And hurricanes coming, all these spaghetti things, it might go this way. I don't know. But with psychology, I have to be right.
Right. It's a forecast.
You get paid well to be able to assume or make mistakes your whole career. Just saying.
It's the best educated guess job that you can have. So
thank you.
I'm sitting there. Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching these news clips of people clearing ground zero. And I'm like, man, I would love to help. But, I'm in St. Louis. So he said, my goal is to get more melanated people in fire and EMS and police, but specifically fire and EMS, because that was his forte. And he's nationally known as a paramedic instructor. He's been featured in tons of articles also. And so that's how I got started. I went to St. Louis Community College at Forest Park, took the EMT program, got my EMT certification, got licensed. And then from then on, I working at a paid private EMS service in St. Louis, in the Metro St. Louis area. Got my medic license, and then in 2019, I joined a paid fire protection district in St. Louis County, Missouri. And so working for an EMS service as well as a fire department since 2006, I saw a whole lot of stuff, good, bad, and ugly. When
Especially
COVID
hit. Oh,
right.
jinx.
So when COVID hit, Here's when everything changed for me and my family. My wife has a couple of autoimmune diseases. One affects her lungs specifically. So I'm in St. Louis. I'm working for this paid fire protection district and a private EMS service. I'm getting COVID patients left and right. And a lot of my coworkers are getting COVID. Even one of our administrative chiefs got COVID so bad that he almost lost his life. And so with my wife's medical issues, and because she gets sick very easily, we talked with her doctor and he was like, if she were to contract COVID, she may not make it, or she might get what we now know as long COVID with a lot of different complications. And so I was like, you know what? I can always get another job, because my mom always taught me, you never get attached to a building unless you own it or your name is on it. So I want you to remember that statement, because that's going to play a part into what I'm doing now.
Never get attached to a building unless you own it or
your name is on it, because you are an independent contractor. You can be fired at any time, as well as you can put a job.
So if my name's on the door, I can get attached to my office, but I don't own the building.
Well, no, if you got to own the company or be a part of it, you got, you can't be just an employee. You got some ownership.
No, same thing. But I rent space from a building owner.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And so
then I'm attached to the building.
You attached to that building. So when we were talking about those things, I said, you know what? I can always get another job. I don't want to get another wife. So we had a plan to move. We had a plan to move here to Charlotte.
And she heard me say that.
I'm just saying,
That's so nice. You get a blow for that. That's sweet.
So you got to know about Mrs. Well, everybody calls her name is Christina. We call her Chrissy, but most people refer to her as Mrs. LP because they call me LP. So okay. Mrs. LP told me, she said, you know what? If something were to happen to me and I were to lose my life, you got to get in this casket with me, because I don't want to be laying in the casket and some woman is consoling you because she's waiting to be the new Mrs. LP. So we have this running joke all the time about, if something happens, you got to get in this casket or whatever, or, it's like her version of
I go when you go.
Yeah, it's her version of ride or die. So we had plans to move to Charlotte in 2026 when our girls graduated high school, and some things changed along with COVID that moved those plans up, because she came to Charlotte. That's where she was raised, but she was born in North Carolina. And so I said, this is March of 2020. I said, why don't you go hang out with your family for about a week? Hopefully this thing will pass over. She packed a week's worth of clothes and she came to Charlotte. The very next week, they did the worldwide shutdown. And we were like, what do we do now? So we were talking, and I said,
we got to pause though. I want to leave a cliffhanger there because we need a first break. But this is a good place to leave a cliffhanger. Family separated, worldwide shutdown. And remind me to pick up when we get back there, when we get returned. But it's a good place to leave a cliffhanger. Callers call in 866-826-1340. 866-826-1340. We're going to go into our first break, and we'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner. We welcome your input at 866-826-1340. Tiffany will be right back after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hello, my name is Lucy Lopes, and I'm a real estate agent that supports ending the stigma on mental health with Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I am also passionate about helping you buy or sell your home. With times being so difficult, I'm here to help. Contact me at lucylopes.com. That's LUCYLOPES.com. Let me assist you through this pandemic and know that you are not alone.
Hi, this is Tiffany Werner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Warner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one.
Are you looking for a great book? If you like to root for the underdog, Joe Potosi's book is a book for you. A real American odyssey that will grab your attention with its fast-moving narrative. You won't be able to put this masterpiece down. When the Dust Settled by Joe Potosi. Go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Zulin Press.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We are back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner. To join in the discussion, call 866-826-1340. Now, here's Tiffany Warner.
Hello, and welcome back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I'm Tiffany Warner, licensed mental health counselor and your host. And with me, we've been talking about traumas that we are afraid to discuss. Podcast host, EMT, COVID, EMT, and medic, and firefighter, and so much more. Podcast host of Trigger Warning. And welcome back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany, Larry Penton, a.k.a. LP. You want me to call you LP or Larry Penton?
Yes, LP is fine. Everybody calls me LP. So.
Well, I'm going to be one of everybody. I don't like to be just anybody.
That's right.
You have to ask me. That's it. I'm calling you Larry. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so LP, where we left off, your wife and family went to Charlotte, and then automatic lockdown from COVID.
Automatic lockdown, and we were sitting there like, okay, what do we do now? So again, that conversation about her health came up, and I said, you know what? Let's just move to Charlotte. You know, I can always get another job. I can always do something else. My medical license, even now, is still active in the state of Missouri. So I also have a bunch of certifications still that are active. And so I said, you know what? I want to go to nursing school. And so we moved here to Charlotte. This is in, she was here already. So she's been here since March of 2020. I got here May 21st, 2020. To be a student, to not have to pay the in-state fees here in North Carolina, which are exorbitant, you have to be a resident of the state for 1 calendar year. So I was like, okay, I'll just, wait it out or whatever. And Mrs. LP was like, you've been working all your life. She works for a Fortune 100 company, has a great income. She's like, we're good. Like, we're good. I was like, you know what? I'm 50. No, I was 49. I said, I don't want to sit on the couch, binge watching stuff on Netflix and picking the lint out of my belly button for a whole year. I got to do something. I'm just too.
Hey,
I got too
don't
much.
knock it till you try it. Just kidding.
The first few months it was great. I'm just sitting back, I'm chilling and all this stuff. But this stuff gets old after a while. And it's like I'm just so used to
it was horrible when we had that. The only thing that had just come out, ironically, was the Tiger King. Nobody would have gotten into that except that that was the only new thing that came out, and it became this whole thing, and it was horrible. Sorry, but that's my own opinion on that one thing. Anyway.
I'm so antsy because I'm just so used to, because like I said, I'm working at a fire department and I was working at an EMS service. I'm like, I got to do something. So fast forward a few months, a friend of mine who I've known since 85, who's like a brother to me, he wanted to start a business based on the plant-based lifestyle because he had a bunch of comorbidities, had gained a lot of weight. He was 400 plus pounds. He had done this plant-based lifestyle. He did some modifications to it and went from 420 to 260. He was able to stop taking the medications that he was prescribed for all the comorbidities he had. And I was like, okay, I can help you promote the stuff we were going to do a partnership. That didn't work out. And then I had another friend who's a nurse who wanted to sell. She grows dried herbs in her garden, and she was like, "Well, I don't know all the technical stuff." So me being the computer nerd, I was like, "I can help you with that." And I thought, man, that would be a great business, helping startup companies, basically kind of doing virtual assistant type work. So that's how Pending Consulting Solutions LLC got started. And because of my certifications, I have a number of certifications. One being I'm a Stop the Bleed instructor trainer. So I travel across the country teaching Stop the Bleed. Myself and my work partner, his name is Dexter Doc Peggins. He's a 25-year retired veteran. So first 2 years he was in the Marine Corps. Last 23 years he was a combat medic in the U.S. Army. So we linked up together, and we've been traveling doing Stop the Bleed trainings. We did a training actually at LinkedIn headquarters last year, at their headquarters for their executive protection team. So these are all the security personnel for all the C-suite or the executives for LinkedIn headquarters. And that was a phenomenal opportunity. And so we want to do more things like that. So we do active shooter hostile event consulting. That's going to be changed. It's going to be active violent incidents, because everything that we see does not involve a firearm. You know, you have firearms, you have explosives, you have other weapons. And so we saw that in Brooklyn with the incident on the subway, where there was some smoke bombs and there were firearms. And so we talk about the concept of run, hide, fight. We teach people how to get off the X. We teach people how to survive in real time. And that's very important, because I always say it's not a matter of if, but when and where an active violent incident is going to occur. And what are you going to do if you get caught up in this situation? Like we saw what happened in Highland Park, Illinois this week at a parade. It could be at a grocery store. It could be at a shopping mall. It could be anywhere. These events, you're not going to have, you can't have the mindset that it's not going to happen here. And that's what we talk to people about. A lot of those individuals were helped by, not bystanders, but by doers who helped put tourniquets on, came up with improvised tourniquets, did bleeding control, because the number one cause of death and trauma is uncontrolled bleeding. And that's what the premise of the Stop the Bleed campaign is about. And so we will create emergency operations plans for houses of worship, because we know incidents have happened at those institutions.
Especially if you're dealing with an alcoholic that has like low vitamin. What's the vitamin?
Whatever their medical issue is, you know, so
where they have like they bleed more quickly, but it's a
they bleed more.
vitamin that they're
Their vitamin
lacking.
K, they can't clot.
Yeah.
They don't have clot formation.
They can't clot
enzyme.
easy.
Yeah,
You're the medic.
So
I knew there was something, but
yeah. So houses of worship, schools, businesses, hospitals now, because we saw what happened in Tulsa, and the community at large. We will teach and train anybody. We will travel across the country doing Stop the Bleed campaigns, trainings, as well as consultations.
But
you know, that's been a hard. And you know, we talked about this before we got on air. I am not a political guy. I don't get into the two-way conversations. I leave that to the other people. I just focus on the gun.
Your opinion on this, but
sure. I just focus on gun safety. I don't get into the two-way conversations at all. And so for me, what I do is, if I go to a school, here's a prop that I have. This is a plastic gun. It's not metal. It's not an active gun. I got this off of eBay. It's a training gun. It's not even a 3D printed gun. No ammo, no metal, no moving parts or anything like that. Totally plastic. I would talk to parents and kids and say, you know what? If your kid finds one of these, whether it's in the house or in the street, first of all, you want to call 911. You want to report that there's a firearm that's laying around, that is not being manned or Nobody's
Right. You don't want to pick
it's
up
in
someone
nobody's
else's.
suspicion.
Plus, it's
The other
been
thing,
used somewhere else, so you don't want to be framed holding maybe like a weapon that
don't
is a murder crime weapon that someone threw out the window of a car, thinking like, okay, I'm
right.
not gonna get busted with this, and then your child comes and finds it, or some accident, or you're picking up evidence on another murder scene. Then who knows what that can lead to.
Right. I tell people, especially young kids, don't touch one of these. If you see it, call somebody, an adult, law enforcement, whatever. The other thing I talk about when I talk about gun safety is the importance of gun locks, the importance of staging and storing the firearm, the importance of learning about guns. And again, we don't do the two-way conversation. I say you can learn about firearms just like as a parent. Everybody tells their kids, don't stick any sharp, pointy objects into the electrical socket. We tell our kids that to the point we threaten them within an inch of their life. So how many news stories do you hear about kids getting electrocuted because of that? It's very rare. Same concept and the same principles should apply when it comes to firearms. And again, you don't have to own a gun to know about a firearm. So we talk about the 4 universal safety rules when it comes to firearms. A colleague of mine, he uses the acronym TANK, so like an Army tank. So T, treat all firearms as if they're loaded and perform a clearance check to make sure that there's nothing in the chamber before you handle it or hand it off to somebody else. A, always know what your target is and what's beyond it, because bullets go somewhere. If you shoot a bullet up in the air, like on New Year's Eve, especially where I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, it was like Iraq the week of New Year's. Bullets go up with the same velocity and come down at the same velocity. They're going to go in a tree, a car, a roof, or maybe into a person. You're responsible for every round that comes out of any firearm that's in your possession that you're holding. And this is the most important one to me.
That is so funny. Pause for a second. People
Sure.
go, yeah, they want to shoot them in the air. They don't even think twice about what goes up must come down.
Must come down. Same
Like,
velocity too. So
straight up in the atmosphere. Like you don't even. And the sad part is somebody miles away or whatever way could have been like, what just hit my car, or what just
hit my car. Yeah.
What just hit this, or what just. Someone's ending up in the hospital because they don't know where it came from, and it just came out of the sky. Like
thousands of people get hurt and killed every year during the week of New Year's because of that.
Or what about like deer hunting season and stuff like that? Like, or I don't know, hunting season where they just, or what about those people that they're like pull and then they shoot them up in the air to hit quail or the little discs or whatever that kind of thing too.
That's using buckshot, so that's different than rounds of ammo. That's a little different. So you don't have that issue as much as you do with just.
I'm not very educated on armor or like
nope, that's
guns
fine.
or anything like that.
And never point your weapon at anything that you're not willing to destroy. That's most important because it gets into the mental health aspect that we're going to be talking about soon. I always say, you know what? If you got beef with somebody, and especially we're talking about young folks, instead of grabbing a gun, that's when your brain is going to be talking to you while you're looking for this firearm or whatever weapon, because all crimes don't occur with firearms. Most occur with these, then something like this, then one of these. And so I say that's the time where your verbal judo should be kicking in. Hey, whether you say the angel on one side, the devil on the other side, do I really want to do this? Because that's going to affect that person, their family, their friends, and their community. And it's going to affect your friends.
Usually the one that shoots the gun is the one that's incarcerated, of course.
Right. You have the power. That's right. You have the power before you even touch this. And then K, keep your finger off the trigger and outside the trigger guard until you have acquired your target and ready to shoot. That's because a lot of times when you see people having their hand on the trigger, it's called a clench reflex. So if I got my finger on the trigger and I'm in my office right now, and like, let's say my wife busted in here and this was a live weapon, I'm going to clench. Well, if my finger's on the trigger, it's going to depress that trigger. And if it's loaded, I'm going to fire the gun off. And so you always want to make sure that your finger is off the trigger and outside the trigger guard. So even if I hold it like this, you can't see my finger because I got it properly placed. And so these are conversations that I have with people. I talk about gun locks. You can go to any police department, sheriff's office, and now even some fire departments and get a gun lock for little or nothing. It's too many kids that I get breaking news stories every day about these mass shootings, as well as all kind of other crimes and all kind of other fatal discharges where 2-year-olds have shot their kid brother or their sister or their family member. There was a lady.
Bang, let's pretend.
Remember the story about the lady? Do you remember the story about the lady that was working on, and she was on a Zoom call and she got shot by her kid? I don't know if you heard about that. Yeah, there was a lady who was working at home virtually. She was on a Zoom call, and next thing you know, pow, and she kind of slumped over. Her kid came in her office with a loaded gun that was in the house and was playing with it and accidentally discharged the gun and shot her. Now, she didn't die from it, but, these are things that I always talk to parents about specifically. You got to be mindful of whatever weapon is in your house. Again, the same conversation that you have with your kids about not putting sharp objects in the electric socket. If you have a firearm in your house, you should have that same conversation, educating them about the dangers of firearms. So that's kind of my 2-cent Cliff Notes version of it.
That's very, very cool. However, and we have our second break, and we'll leave this. When the world thought pandemic is going, we're all gonna die, people are dying, COVID's hitting, everything. It wasn't the weapon places of whatever stores sell guns or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was toilet paper. We
It was toilet paper.
all ran out of toilet paper.
It was disinfectant. I'm still blocked on Facebook. I got
the world's
18
coming
more
to the end.
days.
Disinfectant and toilet paper were the first things to go. Not how are we going to protect our family? How are we going to do this, gun safety? We might as well get a gun in the house. Nope, we got to stock up on some toilet
We
paper.
got to stock up. And we talk about disaster preparedness too. So we'll get into that.
Yes, okay. Yeah, because I'm in Florida. We got hurricane season coming up anyway. But it's pretty funny. Thank you for the education on the gun because, but that also there's lock boxes and things like that keep little kids out of there too. Anyway, it's time for a break.
One.
But yeah, I think if you own a gun, don't you have to have one if you have kids in the house? But I don't know. I guess to each their own.
At minimum, a gun lock. You can get a gun lock for $10, and like I said, the police department or sheriff's office or even fire departments now are having these that they're giving out to the community for little to nothing.
Some people can keep them as long as they have a concealed weapon license. They can keep them in their glove compartment, right? Then there's all these people with road rage and stuff and pulling out guns, and it's a whole nother show. Anyway, we'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment. Stay tuned.
We will return to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner after these messages.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
If you are like most people, you worry with the financial challenges you face today. How do you protect your family from financial ruin? How will you reduce your liabilities and get out of debt sooner? And how can you deal effectively with the constant changes in your job, your career, and your business? Overcoming your financial challenges is like building a house. You must build from the ground up. You must learn how to make more money, save more money, grow your money, and protect your money. Forever Forward Financial specializes in teaching you these 4 basic money skills so you can achieve your dreams and end your worry. Call us today and schedule your complimentary, no-obligation meeting to discuss your needs and concerns. Call Scott Bigley at 727-422-7761.
Hi, this is your host, Tiffany Warner from Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I want to thank you for all your support on ending the stigma on mental health for over the past 7 years and with over 600 episodes, as well as several award nominations and placing as a finalist in 3 categories on the People's Choice Podcast Award last year. If you're listening to this on audio, please visit and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Moments of Clarity with Tiffany and enjoy viewing previous shows in case you miss any live. If you're interested in advertising and would like to promote your company, it is affordable and an effective way to get your company the attention it deserves. I also welcome potential guests as well, and all information can be found on my website at mocwithtiffany.com. Thank you again for your continued support, as change can only come when we stand together as one. Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. I'd like to give a shout out to musician-songwriter Don Lawson, who wrote, produced, and performed all the vocals and instruments on my Moments of Clarity theme song. Don gained his inspiration as a mental health counselor himself. He's always looking for artists to record his songs, and you can hear more of Don's music at reverbnation.com/Don Lawson. You can also check him out on Twitter at Don Lawson Music. Thank you so much, Don, for your contribution to Moments of Clarity and ending the stigma on mental health. It's awesome.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Now back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner, licensed mental health counselor. To engage in the conversation, call 866-826-1340. Here's Tiffany.
Hello, and welcome back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I'm Tiffany Warner, licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. My guest today, Larry Penton, aka LP, has been talking about some very important things that we need to know on safety, keeping each other safe, pandemic, and what mental health has affected him during the COVID, during the pandemic, during all of these things as a firefighter, EMT. And he also has a podcast and called Trigger Warning, where he discusses a lot of major topics like domestic violence and human trafficking and other things that we kind of discuss on here, but in more depth and without a therapist, I guess. But welcome back to Moments of Clarity, LP, Larry Penton.
Thank you.
And Larry, did you get my private chat? So
Hold on, because I turned my notifications off.
no, I mean on here, on the restream.
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
wait, because I got it maximized.
Basically, I just said this is a final stretch, so we've got 10 minutes. Let's promote your show. All right.
Okay, so my podcast discusses traumas. So it's called Trigger Warning Talk Podcast. Those 4 words, because there's a couple trigger warning podcasts and different things like that. Mine is Trigger Warning Talk Podcast. You see it right here in the background. So if you see this logo,
Trigger Warning Talk
Podcast. So sorry. Yeah. So if you see this logo, that's me. So Trigger Warning Talk Podcast. We discuss traumas. We talk about traumas based on 4 topics under the mental health umbrella: domestic violence, human and sex trafficking, missing persons, and sexually based offenses. The reason that I created this podcast is because I wanted to create dialogue with solution-based plans of action. And I want people to understand that these topics, typically, I call it the iceberg syndrome. People want to talk about only the 10% of these topics. The 90% that you don't see, that's typically like an iceberg that's under the water. That's where the shame, the guilt, the judgment, the pain, and the trauma lies, that a lot of times people don't like discussing. Well, I say either let's flip that iceberg upside down, or let's put the scuba gear on and let's deep dive into these discussions. I have all kind of people on. I have subject matter experts that are mental health professionals, from a coach, advocate, social worker, therapist, all the way to PhD level folks. I have people that are mental health pros that do non-traditional therapies or modalities, I should say. Reiki practitioners, NLP practitioners, which is neuro-linguistic programming, EFT, which is the tapping. I have those practitioners come on. Hypnotherapy. So all the forms of metaphysics that they apply to non-traditional modalities in regarding therapy. I have those individuals on to talk about how they help their clients resolve or heal from traumas like domestic violence or sexual trauma. The other thing that I have is people that are non-clinicians who may have experienced one of those traumas. So if a person has been trafficked, my first two shows, the first two interviews that I did on the Trigger One to Talk podcast were trafficking survivors, overcomers. So they were
Yeah, I've
trafficked as young
interviewed quite
girls,
a few.
and
They're
now
they
as
need
adults, they work to help promote advocacy and awareness on trafficking. The missing person component is very special to me because 99% of those cases that we cover are melanated men, women, and children. So at the end of every interview, the guests, they have the option to stand on or they can drop off. I'll cover a missing person case. And again, that's for a melanated man, woman, and child because I want to bring the same media attention and energy to those individuals that we typically don't see in the media when they're missing. And it could be a kidnapping, an abduction, or it could be a runaway person.
right.
Some of the episodes we're going to be doing are going to be the whole episode will be about a missing person case. So on Court TV a week or two ago, there was a case of Missouri versus Ferguson regarding the missing person case of Christian Ferguson, who was 9 years old when he was missing. That case happened in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where I'm from. And so I covered that case at the end of one interview that's going to be coming out. And I'm working on talking with Theta Person, which is the mom of Christian Ferguson, because that case just was adjudicated and the dad who was on trial, he was found guilty. So we're in the process of having her come on the show and talking because she has a nonprofit also. But these are cases that we cover on every podcast at the end of the show. And so I want people to understand that from my perspective, I talk and I'm the host, but we have other people that are part of the show that will be doing some of the interviews. So we have two nurses. They both work in the ER. One does the rape kits. The other nurse is a psychiatric nurse. So he finds the resources for mental health for those individuals that have been traumatized. And then we have a number of rape advocates that do their advocacy work from the beginning to the end. Mrs. LP is our in-house true crime detective. Like I was telling you about earlier, she likes true crime, the unsolved true crime stuff. So she provides all the research and the resources about the missing persons cases.
And so she doesn't just like it on TV. She does it in real life and likes to watch it on TV. Pretty much.
That's right. And a lot of people don't know this.
Kudos to her. I can't stand mental health shows. Like, well, the ones we have out there. Give me time, LP. I'm gonna be putting this one out there because the ones out there, they got their film stuff that just drives me nuts. But Moments of Clarity with Tiffany will be a mental health show on TV. We'll watch
That's right. I got to give a shout out to Mrs. LP. Yeah. Mrs. LP has gotten involved she's gotten involved in some missing persons cases that have happened nationwide. You never see her at the press conference and you never hear her. She's like the non-disembodied voice. She'll assemble everybody and she does the stuff for free historically. All the people that she has assembled to find somebody either live or dead, she won't be at the press conference because she's shy and all this stuff. And she's like, I don't want the notoriety. I just want to help people. And so that's why we added the missing person component. And if you look at the logo, we have all of these things. I'm trying to not be blocking my face. All of these things are intertwined with each other. And you see how these circles are open because they flow to each other. I did a missing person case a couple of weeks ago where a young girl in Dallas went to a Dallas NBA game, Mavericks game. She was 15 years old. She went to the bathroom and told her dad, I'll be right back. She never appeared. And so the next time the dad saw her was 11 days later. That day he went and talked to the Dallas Police Department. They filed a missing person report. he wasn't satisfied with how the case was being investigated. And after a few days, he contacted a trafficking organization. I think it was either in Houston or in San Antonio. He gave them her information. They did their research. You know where they found her? In Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. So they found her on a trafficking website. She was being sold in traffic
Oh man.
at this motel. So she was trafficked, sexually offended. She was missing. Like all of this happened in one whop. And so they found her at this motel. They arrested the guy who had rented this motel and some of the people that had been involved in her trafficking and raping. But look at the mental health that she's going to need, her and her family.
No kidding.
People got to stop thinking that trafficking happens with people coming from either the U.S.-Mexico border or coming in some shipping container from Europe. Trafficking happens here, is real, is live, and it happens every day and twice on Sunday in the U.S. And anybody can be trafficked, no matter what your gender is. And that's what we talk about on the show also.
Some serious stuff. And you know what? We can't fix stupid, but we can change ignorance.
That's right.
You know, sometimes people just don't know what's going on out there, so they base decisions based on what they do know, but that's called ignorance. Stupid which I'm allergic to stupidity, I think, is when they know better, they don't want to listen to facts, they're in denial, and even though things present themselves as clear as can be, they don't want to learn about it. They think it's foo-foo, even though it's evidence-based, there's science behind it, all of that. And
I got a
so we
quote
can't
that
be
I
stupid,
learned.
but we can help change the
Right.
world, teach those that are willing to learn and be like, oh, I didn't look at it that way.
I have this favorite quote. A favorite quote of mine is from Dr.
So
Martin Luther King.
sure, before that, because we're running out of time,
Sure.
where do we find your podcast? And then do the quote, because you did the shout outs, but Trigger Warning Talk podcast.
Yeah. Trigger Warning
And-
Talk podcast. We're streaming
Air,
everywhere.
where do you
Yeah.
air live or is it on podcast?
These
Is it
are
on
all-
Spotify?
Yeah, we're streaming everywhere you find your favorite podcast. So you can find us iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, everywhere that you get your podcasts, we're on there. So it's Trigger Warning Talk Podcast. And again, all you got to do is look for this logo.
Podcast. Subscribe to that. While you're there, go to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany, because I'm on those platforms too. Go to both and hit subscribe. While you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. There should be a little icon too as well. Or LinkedIn, please give it a like. Twitter, leave it a like. Facebook, give it a like. And share this on your platforms, because change can only come when we stand together as one. And this was a great interview. I'd love to have you back, Larry.
Anytime. My favorite quote from Dr. King is this: there's nothing more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. So when you talked about that, I'm sitting there like doing cartwheels and clapping and stuff, because I want to change the title of that. I always say in closing, mental health crisis is the world's oldest continuous pandemic that's been around since the beginning of mankind, and it ain't going nowhere. And we got to get rid of the stigmas. We got to get rid of the stigmas, the taboos, and the stereotypes. So that's part of my goal. LP out.
Me too. LP out. Can you say the quote one more time, please?
Which one?
Dr. King. The Dr. King one.
There's nothing more dangerous in the world than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity.
Do you think stupidity is conscientious? Do they know they're being stupid? That's something to ponder.
It's not your fault if you don't know. It's your fault once you've been made aware that you don't know, that if you don't do anything to find out about it. So that's where, and I call it intentional ignorance.
That clarifies what I'm allergic to. People that maybe have a lower IQ or whatever, that think they're stupid, Forrest Gump, like whatever, I don't know. They don't get on my nerves. It's the conscientious one. You're right.
The conscientious,
All right, LP, it's been a wonderful time having you as a guest on Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. Unfortunately, our hour is up. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, for your comments, and for supporting the show. Please vote for Moments of Clarity with Tiffany
Yes.
podcast. The link is just People's Choice, podcastawards.com. Just fill it out. I'm in 5 sections. Adam Curry, grammar education, health, best female podcast host, and society and culture. Just alphabetical. Moments of Clarity with Tiffany. I need as many votes as possible. There's a lot of competition out there. Anyway,
How many times
thank you.
can we vote?
Huh?
Is
Every
it like
email.
we can vote once a
Yeah.
day?
No, it's just every email. I'm sending you the link. You know, I already did. That's why we're.
I got you.
Anyway, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Be kind to yourself and a stranger. You never know what you're going through. Take care. Follow Larry. Well,
Peace and blessings.
It will please your mind. Find you. Don't put yourself down, time for a change. Believe in yourself, time to rearrange. Be your best friend, bring hope to your day. Lose your critic, get out of your way. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity. Now I get it, moments of clarity. To yourself be kind, it will please your mind. Find your joy, trust in you. Put in the time, you'll see how you grow. Many kinds of love you get to define. Find self-love, your soul will align. Now it clicks, moments of clarity. Now I hear moments of clarity.